Welcome to Karen Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss a crazy story. Let's dive in.
It started as a quiet afternoon, the kind where the breeze was just right, and the sun cast a shimmering glow over the water. I had just finished a few laps in my private heated pool, the only oasis I had against the early spring chill. After drying off, I went inside for a quick bathroom break, leaving my towel draped over my favorite lounge chair. It was supposed to be a brief moment, but when I stepped back outside, my world tilted sideways. There, sprawled in my lounge chair as if she had claimed it by divine right, was a woman I had never seen before. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped against the screen of her oversized phone, and beside her, my damn hat lay discarded on the ground, like garbage. And in the pool, my pool, her kid splashed and whooped, as if he had been invited to an amusement park. I stood frozen, my mind scrambling to process the sheer audacity of what I was witnessing. "Excuse me," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "Why are you on my property?" She barely glanced up, her oversized sunglasses sliding down her nose just enough to reveal an expression of mild inconvenience. "Oh," she said, as if I had interrupted something terribly important. "Is this your property?" My brain short-circuited. "Yes," I snapped, "it is. So I'll ask again, why are you here?" She finally deigned to sit up, brushing imaginary dust off her lap. "Well, my son wanted to swim, but the lake is just too cold today. And then we saw your pool." She gestured vaguely, as if that somehow explained everything. It was just so convenient. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh, to reveal that this was some kind of sick joke. But she just sat there, sipping from a bottle of sparkling water that wasn't hers, acting like she belonged. "Convenient?" I repeated, my voice rising. "This is my private pool, on my private property. You cannot just waltz in and use it like a public park." She sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. "Well, you don't have to be so rude about it. We're just trying to have a nice time." "A nice time?" My breath came in short bursts, disbelief and fury mixing in a toxic cocktail. "Lady, you trespassed. That's a crime." Her kid, blissfully unaware of the confrontation unfolding, continued to splash, sending water onto the pavement. I turned toward him. "Hey, buddy, time to get out. This pool isn't open to the public. Big mistake." The woman shot up from her stolen chair as if I had just insulted her entire lineage. "How dare you speak to my child like that?" she shrieked, jabbing a finger toward my chest. "He has feelings, you know, and now you're just going to rip away his joy? He's just a child." I took a step back, stunned. "What the hell are you talking about? I'm not ripping away his joy. I'm telling him to get out of my damn pool because he has no right to be in it." She gasped, as if I had personally threatened his life. "Oh, so you want him to get hypothermia? Is that it? You heartless," she sputtered, eyes blazing. "You think you own the water too? Just because you have a little extra money doesn't mean you can hoard resources from the community." "This isn't a resource," I barked, barely able to keep from shouting. "This is my home. You are on my property without permission. That's called trespassing. So either you and your kid get out, or I call the cops." For a moment, I thought I had her. Her lips parted, as if she finally understood the weight of the situation. But then, with the arrogance only someone this entitled could muster, she flipped her hair and smirked. "Go ahead. Call the cops," she sneered. "I'll just tell them you threatened my child, and we both know how that will end for you." My stomach dropped. This woman wasn't just clueless, she was dangerous. The kind of person who would twist a story so severely that I'd be the one in handcuffs by the end of it. I clenched my jaw. "I don't think you understand how serious this is," she smiled. "Oh, I think you don't understand how serious this is. I'm part of the neighborhood watch, and I have a lot of influence in this town. I can make your life very difficult if you keep this up." She was bluffing. She had to be. But my fingers twitched toward my phone anyway. Then, as if the universe had had enough of this insanity, the kid climbed out of the pool, shivering, and whined, "Mom, I want to go home." The woman shot me a venomous glare before grabbing her kid's towel and wrapping it around him. "Come on, sweetheart," she cooed, casting one last look of pure disdain my way. Some people just weren't raised to share. And with that, she turned, yanked my chair over in a final act of petty defiance, and stalked off my property, her son in tow. I stood there, watching her go, my fists clenched at my sides. And as soon as she disappeared from view, the rage I had been holding back erupted in a frustrated shout. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I barely had time to process the absurdity of what had just happened before my phone buzzed on the patio table. I snatched it up, my hands still trembling from the confrontation. It was a text from my neighbor, Mark. "Dude, did I just see some lady and her kid walking off your property?" Looked like she was pissed. I exhaled sharply, my jaw tightening. Pissed? She had just trespassed, stolen my space, threatened to call the cops on me, and then had the audacity to act like I was the villain? I texted back, "Yep. Psycho." Literally climbed into my pool like she owned it. Mark's reply came within seconds. "Bro, you need to check the neighborhood Facebook group." I frowned, already feeling my stomach churn. If there was one thing entitled people like her loved more than causing chaos, it was playing the victim afterward. With a deep breath, I opened the app and navigated to the local HOA group. And there it was, a post by Jessica M., complete with a blurry, zoomed-in photo of my pool, my backyard, and a caption so infuriating I had to read it twice. So sad when people in our community refuse to show kindness. My poor son just wanted to cool off, but a certain selfish neighbor, not naming names, "But you know who you are," screamed at him, and kicked us out. What happened to being neighborly? We all pay to live here. Maybe some people shouldn't have a pool if they're just going to hoard it. Community matters, I blinked. My brain refused to process the sheer level of delusion. "She took a picture of my damn house?" I clicked the comments. The neighborhood keyboard warriors were already hard at work. Who would do that to a kid? Some people are just miserable. Let me guess, same guy who never comes to the block parties. If you don't want to share, why even live in a community? Disgusting. I nearly crushed my phone in my grip. These people were eating it up. Not a single person was asking why she thought it was okay to trespass onto someone's private property and let her kid jump into their pool uninvited. I slammed my phone onto the table and paced back and forth, every step fueled by pure, unfiltered rage. I needed to respond. I needed to shut this down. But no, not like this. Not while my hands were shaking, and my blood felt like it was boiling in my veins. I took a breath, then another. If she wanted to play dirty, fine, but I was going to do this right. I took my own picture of the security footage, a crystal clear shot of her lounging in my chair like she owned the place, while her kids splashed around. Then I opened the comment section and started typing. Since we're telling stories, here's what actually happened. This woman trespassed onto my property, moved my belongings, and let her son swim in my private pool without permission. When I politely asked them to leave, she refused, and then threatened to call the cops on me for making her child cry. Since she decided to post a misleading version of events, here's the security footage. Hope this helps clear things up, I hit post. And then, I waited. For a few minutes, there was nothing. Just the same trickle of clueless people commenting, completely unaware that they were about to witness a digital execution in real time. Then the replies started rolling in. Wait. She went into your yard? Hold up. She threatened you? LMAO, she really posted a call out after trespassing? The audacity. Jessica, this you? Attached was my screenshot of the security footage. The shift was almost comical. The very same people who were clutching their pearls moments ago were now flipping their opinions faster than a politician in election season. And then, Jessica, our lovely neighborhood Karen, showed up in the comments. Her first response was classic, "Wow, can't believe you would publicly attack a single mother just trying to make her son happy." And then, she doubled down. "This just proves my point. You're more concerned with owning things than with being a decent person. My son was literally shivering and crying, and you couldn't even let him have a few minutes in your giant pool? I can't believe people are siding with you on this." Oh, hell no. I cracked my knuckles and typed, "First off, don't twist this into a single mom thing when it's actually a breaking the law thing. You didn't ask. You didn't knock on my door. You just helped yourself to my property like it was a free-for-all. Second, if your kid was shivering and crying, maybe be a responsible parent and don't take him into someone else's yard to begin with. Third, I'm done entertaining your entitlement. Go trespass somewhere else." The likes started exploding. Jessica went radio silent. Then, as if karma itself was having a field day, Mark, who had been quietly watching, dropped the final nuke. FYI, I was outside when this happened. Saw everything. She even told the guy Tosh hair like a good neighbor after being caught. The audacity is unreal. Game. Over. Jessica deleted her post within the hour, but the damage was already done. Screenshots had been taken. Her name was now synonymous with neighborhood-wide embarrassment. I leaned back in my chair, finally allowing myself to breathe. I had won, but something told me this wasn't the last time I'd be dealing with Jessica, queen of entitlement. I should have known it wasn't over. Jessica might have deleted her post and slithered into temporary silence, but people like her don't just let things go. They don't accept consequences. They don't reflect. No entitled people plot. And apparently, she had spent the last 24 hours plotting revenge. It started the next morning. I had barely taken my first sip of coffee when the doorbell rang 3 sharp, angry chimes. I sighed, already feeling a headache creeping in. I knew who it was before I even checked the peephole. Sure enough, there she stood on my porch, arms crossed, her oversized sunglasses perched on her face like some kind of discount villain. And, of course, her kid stood beside her, bundled up in a sweatshirt that looked entirely too dramatic for the mild weather. I opened the door, already exhausted. "What do you want, Jessica?" She scoffed. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe an apology for publicly humiliating me." I blinked. "An apology?" I let out a short, humorless laugh. "You trespassed on my property, lied about it, then tried to turn the whole neighborhood against me. And I'm supposed to apologize?" She flipped her hair, her lips curving into a smug smirk. "You took it too far, posting about me like that. I have a reputation, you know. People are talking. My son is devastated. You traumatized him." Her kid was staring at a worm on the sidewalk, looking about as traumatized as a goldfish. "He doesn't look traumatized," I said flatly. Jessica gasped, placing a dramatic hand on her chest. "How dare you belittle my child's feelings? Lady, I am this close to calling the cops. Get off my porch." Her smirk faltered just a fraction. "You wouldn't." I pulled out my phone and started dialing. That's when she snapped. "Fine," she shrieked, throwing her hands up. "You want to be a selfish, heartless neighbor? So be it. But don't think this is over." I didn't even get a chance to respond before she spun on her heel and marched away, her kid trotting behind her. I stood there for a long moment, watching her go, every instinct screaming that this wasn't the end of it. And, unfortunately, I was right. The next phase of her plan, weaponizing the HOA. That afternoon, I got a lovely letter stuffed into my mailbox. I ripped it open and immediately groaned. It was from the neighborhood HOA, outlining a list of supposed violations regarding my property. "Your backyard fence is 3 inches too high. Funny, considering it was there before the HOA even existed. Your pool is a liability due to a lack of proper safety signage." I literally had 2 signs that said private property. What else did they want? A neon billboard. "Your landscaping does not align with community aesthetic guidelines." Translation: Jessica probably didn't like my hedges. I exhaled sharply, gripping the paper so tight my knuckles went white. Oh, so that's how she wanted to play this? I immediately called Mark, my only sane neighbor. "Dude, Jessica just hit me with a laundry list of HOA violations. Any chance you got one too?" There was a pause. Then, laughter. "Oh man, she's really on a warpath, huh?" "Yeah, I got one. Something about my garage door being too weathered. It's a damn garage door." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "She's trying to use the HOA as her personal revenge squad." "Yep, and it's not just us." "Talk to Stacy down the street. She got one for having too many garden ornaments." "And you know what's funny? The only other person on the HOA board is Jessica's best friend." I clenched my jaw. Of course, 2 days later, it got worse. I came home from work to find a bright red sticker slapped on my pool gate. Notice: pool use suspended until further review. I stood there, staring at it in disbelief. Jessica had actually convinced the HOA to temporarily suspend my own pool on my own property. Rage boiled in my chest. This wasn't just petty. This was war. I stormed inside, grabbed my laptop, and pulled up the HOA bylaws. And that's when I found the loophole. See, Jessica's friend might be the only other board member, but according to bylaw section 14.3, if enough homeowners voted, the board could be overturned. I grabbed my phone. "Mark, get ready. We're about to take Jessica down." The next morning, I went door to door with a petition. People were already sick of Jessica. She tried to fine me for having my trash cans out an hour early. She yelled at my kid for riding his bike too fast on the sidewalk. She tried to get my dog banned from the park because he looked aggressive. He's a Pomeranian. By that evening, we had enough signatures. At the next HOA meeting, I walked in, documents in hand, and slammed them onto the table in front of Jessica and her friend. "Congratulations," I said, my voice dripping with satisfaction. "You're both fired." Jessica's mouth fell open. You can't do this." Her friend flipped through the petition, her face draining of color. "Jessica, they have the votes." And just like that, it was over. Jessica tried to protest. She tried to play the victim. But the neighborhood had had enough. By the end of the week, all the bogus violations were dropped. My pool was reinstated. The HOA was under new, sane leadership. And Jessica? Well, let's just say that shortly after, a for sale sign mysteriously appeared in her front yard. I never saw her again. Victory never tasted so sweet. Jessica was gone. Or at least, that's what I thought. Her house sat empty for weeks, the for sale sign swaying idly in the breeze. The neighborhood group chat had been eerily quiet, as if the entire community was collectively exhaling after finally being freed from the reign of their self-imposed dictator. Life was good. Too good. And that should have been my first warning, because if I had learned anything from my encounters with Jessica, it was that she wasn't the type to go down without a fight. And I was about to find out just how far she was willing to go to get back at me. It started with the pool. Again, I came home late one night after grabbing dinner with Mark, only to find my backyard gate wide open. I froze. I knew for a fact I had locked it before leaving. My security cameras were up and running, but still, a sick feeling coiled in my stomach as I stepped cautiously into my yard. Then I saw it. Trash. Everywhere. Rotten food scraps floated in my pool like some grotesque soup. Banana peels, fast food wrappers, a half-empty soda can still fizzing weakly in the shallow end. And the worst part, someone had dumped an entire bag of fertilizer into the water, turning it into a murky green swamp. I stood there, stunned, the scent of chlorine and something rotting wafting through the night air. Then, a sound, a rustling near the fence line. I turned sharply, my heart hammering against my ribs, just in time to see a dark figure slinking away down the alley. And even though I couldn't see their face, I knew. Jessica, she was back. The next morning, I pulled the security footage, and there she was, clear as day. At 2:47 am, she had crept onto my property, lugging 2 trash bags behind her like some deranged raccoon. She dumped them right into my pool, then stood there, hands on her hips, as if admiring her work. Then she took out her phone and started taking pictures. I felt my pulse spike. Oh, I knew exactly what she was doing. She was going to frame me. Before I could even react, my phone buzzed. Neighborhood Facebook group post. Jessica M.I. clicked it, and there it was. Disgusting. Some people just don't care about the environment. I can't believe I used to live next to this. This kind of negligence is exactly why our property values keep dropping. Shameful #community matters. And right there, attached to her post, were pictures of my destroyed pool. I gritted my teeth so hard my jaw ached. Oh, she was playing dirty. Fine. She wanted war. She was about to get one. I called Mark first. "Dude," I said, pacing my kitchen. "Jessica's back. She trashed my pool and then posted about it like I am the problem." Mark swore under his breath. "I knew it. I knew she wasn't going to go quietly. What's the plan?" I exhaled. "First, I'm calling the cops. Second, I'm about to give the neighborhood a reality check." Within an hour, I had everything I needed. Screenshots, security footage, time-stamped evidence. I uploaded it all. Hey everyone, just wanted to clear up some misinformation. The truth is, someone trespassed onto my property at 2:47 am, vandalized my pool, then tried to frame me for it. But lucky for me, I have security cameras. Here's the footage. Recognize anyone? I hit post. And then, I watched the explosion happen in real time. Holy, that's Jessica. She came back. Wait. She vandalized his pool and then tried to blame him. That's insane. Doesn't this count as a crime? Like, an actual crime? Oh, it absolutely did. And I made sure the cops knew it too. Jessica was arrested later that evening. Turns out, Breaking into someone's property and causing thousands of dollars in damages isn't just entitled, it's illegal. The cops found even more evidence after searching her car. Apparently, she had been planning more than just pool sabotage. She had a whole bag of HOA violation notices, ready to be slapped onto random houses in the neighborhood, just to stir chaos. That night, as I watched from my porch, I saw her being shoved into the back of a squad car, screaming about how this wasn't fair, how I was the real villain, how she was going to sue everyone. I raised my coffee mug in a silent toast as the car drove away. Good riddance. The next day, the neighborhood was buzzing. People actually apologized for ever believing her nonsense in the first place. And then, a miracle. The new HOA board, the one I helped put in place, passed a motion banning her from the community entirely. Jessica was officially blacklisted. She couldn't even step foot in the neighborhood without risking another trespassing charge. I stood by my pool, now finally clean again, taking in the peaceful silence. Jessica was gone, for real this time, and I had won. Again. But you know what the funniest part is? A few days later, Mark sent me a listing from a nearby town. It was a house for sale. And the owner? Jessica M. The description: great neighborhood, wonderful community, just don't ask about the last one. I laughed so hard, I nearly dropped my phone. Because at the end of the day, there was one universal truth. You can take Jessica out of the neighborhood, but you can never take the Karen out of Jessica. I should have known better. Jessica may have been arrested, banned from the neighborhood, and essentially exiled from our community. But Karens don't go quietly into the night. They slink into the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. And Jessica, she wasn't just a Karen, she was the final boss of Karens. So when my doorbell rang at 6:45 am on a Saturday, I knew. Still, I prayed just for a second that maybe it was Mark, or the mailman, or hell, even some random religious group handing out pamphlets. But no, because the moment I opened the door, there she was, Jessica, standing on my porch, like nothing had ever happened, like she hadn't been arrested, like she hadn't been banned, like she hadn't tried to ruin my life multiple times. I didn't even have words. I just stood there, gripping the doorframe so hard my knuckles turned white, waiting for my brain to catch up with reality. She was dressed in a bright pink blazer, the kind of outfit someone wears when they're about to make a formal complaint to a manager who doesn't care, and had the absolute gall to give me a tight-lipped, professional smile. "Good morning," she chirped. I was still processing the sheer absurdity of her existence when she cleared her throat and continued. I was hoping we could have a civilized conversation. I blinked. "Are you out of your damn mind?" Her smile twitched. "That's rude." I laughed, out loud, right in her face. "Jessica, you broke into my backyard, trashed my pool, tried to frame me, got arrested, and you think we're just going to have a nice little civilized conversation on my porch? Are you actually insane?" She exhaled dramatically, like I was the unreasonable one. "Listen, I admit that mistakes were made." "Mistakes?" I repeated, incredulous. She gave a small, dismissive wave. "The past is the past. I'm not here to fight." "Oh, good," I said flatly, "because I already won." Jessica's jaw clenched, just for a second, but I saw it, that flicker of pure hatred beneath her carefully curated mask of politeness. She inhaled sharply through her nose, then smiled again. "I'm actually here to offer you a deal." A deal. But at this point, I was convinced I had either entered another dimension, or she had suffered actual brain damage since the last time I saw her. "Not interested," I said immediately. "You haven't even heard it yet." "I don't need to." The answer is still no. Jessica's eyes darkened. "You're being extremely childish." I crossed my arms. "And you're trespassing." Again. Her lips pursed, but she powered through. "Fine. I'll make it simple. I want to buy your house." I just stared at her. "Excuse me?" She straightened her shoulders, clearly thinking this was some kind of power move. "I want to buy your house. I have a new investor who's helping me purchase property in this area. I'm willing to make a generous offer above market value." I laughed again, harder this time. "Jessica, you were literally banned from this community. You think anyone is going to sell to you?" Her smile widened. "That's the beauty of it. They won't know. The purchase wouldn't be in my name." And there it was. The real reason she was here. She wanted revenge. Jessica was trying to sneak back into the neighborhood under someone else's name, and she thought buying my house was her ticket back in. "You're completely unhinged," I muttered. "You're actually insane," she huffed. "Do you have any idea what kind of influence I have? I'm connected with some very powerful developers. We're planning to reshape this entire neighborhood in a way that benefits people who actually deserve to live here. And if you don't take my offer now, you might find yourself surrounded by changes you won't like." I squinted at her. "Are you threatening me with gentrification?" Jessica's smile was tight. "I'm offering you a way out." I tilted my head. "Do you hear yourself when you speak? Or does it just come out as static in your own head?" Her eye twitched. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can either take my generous offer, or you can watch as this neighborhood turns into something that you don't recognize anymore." I let the silence stretch between us, let her stew in her own self-importance for a long, awkward beat. Then I grinned. "Well, Jessica, that does sound tempting." She perked up. "So tempting," I continued, "that I think I'll do you one better." She blinked. "What?" I leaned forward. "I think I'll buy a house in your new neighborhood. You know, just to keep an eye on things." Jessica's entire face dropped. "You wouldn't," she whispered. I grinned wider. "Oh, I would. And imagine how fun it'll be, watching you try to pull this crap in a brand new neighborhood. You think this little scheme of yours will work twice?" Jessica took a sharp step back. For the first time in her life, she looked genuinely nervous. "This isn't over," she hissed, before storming down my porch. "Sure thing, Jessica," I called after her. "See you at the next HOA meeting." "Oh, wait, you're banned." "My bad." She practically ran to her car, slamming the door so hard I was surprised the window didn't shatter. I stood there, watching her drive away, again, and I knew it really wasn't over. But this time, I was ready. I should have known Jessica wasn't the type to accept defeat. A normal person, when caught trespassing, vandalizing, and attempting to sabotage someone's life, would take the L and move on. Jessica? Jessica was not a normal person, and I was about to find out just how far her brand of entitled insanity could go. It started small, little things at first, a dent in my mailbox, garbage mysteriously showing up on my lawn, flyers for exclusive real estate opportunities stuffed into my door handle every single morning like some kind of psychological warfare campaign. At first, I chalked it up to coincidence. Maybe some kids messing around, maybe just bad luck. But by the end of the week, I found a lovely little surprise in my driveway. A citation for an unauthorized vehicle. Confused, the first stared at the paper because I knew for a fact my truck was parked in my own driveway, exactly where it was supposed to be. And then I saw the signature at the bottom, Jessica M., Community Development Officer. I nearly crushed the paper in my hand. Jessica didn't even live in this neighborhood anymore. How was she still pulling this crap? I called Mark immediately. "Dude, Jessica's gone rogue." "What now?" "She's leaving fake citations on my property. And apparently, she's appointed herself Community Development Officer." Mark groaned. "You're kidding." "Oh, I wish." "All right," he said. "We need to figure out how the hell she's still pulling strings in an HOA she's literally banned from." It didn't take long to find the answer. Jessica, in classic villain fashion, had found a loophole. Since she was officially barred from being a homeowner in our community, she had gone one step further. She had convinced a friend to buy a house under their name, and then appointed herself as a consultant for neighborhood revitalization. It was so peak Jessica that I almost had to admire the audacity. Almost. Instead, I did what any sane person would do when dealing with an entitled lunatic who refused to let go. I went to the new HOA board and presented my case. The meeting was packed. People were tired of Jessica, tired of her meddling, her entitled tantrums, her never-ending obsession with trying to rule over a neighborhood she wasn't even part of anymore. I stood at the front, holding up the fake citation she had left in my driveway. How is this even possible? She was banned. We voted. She should be gone. The new HOA president, a much more reasonable guy named Dan, sighed. Technically, she's not breaking the ban. Her name isn't on any official property records. So what? She gets to terrorize us indefinitely because she found a loophole. A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. Then Mark stood up. What if we close the loophole? Dan rubbed his chin. Go on. Mark gestured around the room. We add a new bylaw. Something that says that anyone with a history of harassment or legal action against the HOA can't hold any position, formal or informal, within the community. That would include consultants. The crowd erupted in nods and quiet cheers. Dan looked around. All in favor? Every single hand went up. Motion passed. Effective immediately. Jessica M. is no longer allowed to hold any advisory or consulting role within this community. I smirked. Jessica had found a loophole, and we had just closed it right in her face. Of course, Jessica didn't take the news well. By the time I got home, she had already posted a rage-fueled manifesto in the neighborhood Facebook group. Today, I was silenced by small-minded individuals who fear change. This neighborhood used to be a place of growth, but now it is full of selfish people who refuse to adapt. Remember this when your property values drop and you're stuck living in a stagnating, uninspired community. #disappointed but not surprised. The comment section was glorious. Girl, you don't even live here anymore. We literally voted you out. Take the hint, Jessica. Please seek therapy. For the first time, nobody was on her side. And that was the final nail in the coffin. Jessica didn't show up again. No more fake citations. No more garbage mysteriously appearing in my yard. No more threats of revitalization projects. It was over. For real this time. And the neighborhood? It thrived. The new HOA actually focused on things that mattered: fixing the park, organizing community events, and not trying to micromanage every blade of grass. For the first time in years, life was peaceful. And Jessica? Last I heard, she tried to run for an HOA position in her new neighborhood. She lost by a landslide. Some things never change. I thought it was over. Jessica had been humiliated, banned, and shut down at every turn. The neighborhood had moved on. Life was peaceful. Too peaceful. Because the thing about people like Jessica, they don't just disappear. They wait. And when they come back worse. I had just settled into my new routine: weekend barbecues, quiet nights on the patio, zero HOA drama, when Mark called me, his voice tight with urgency. Dude, you need to check the news. I frowned, grabbing the remote. What am I looking for? It's Jessica. She's back. And she's running for city council. I nearly dropped the remote. What? Mark continued, his words tumbling over each other. She's rebranded herself. She's calling it a community-focused initiative to bring structure and accountability to our district. And guess what her main talking point is? I already knew before he said it. HOAs. I groaned, rubbing my temples. You're telling me she's trying to expand her reign of terror beyond our neighborhood? Not just expand it, weaponize it. She's talking about standardizing property regulations across the city and creating a structured system of accountability for homeowners. I felt my stomach drop. She's trying to turn the entire city into an HOA. Mark exhaled. Yep, I didn't even hesitate. We're stopping this. Right now. Jessica's campaign launch was exactly what you'd expect. She had rented out a fancy hotel ballroom because of course she did, printed way too many banners with her face on them, and packed the room with what I could only assume were either paid supporters or victims of her previous HOA rule who were too scared to leave. I walked in with Mark blending into the crowd. The energy in the room was unsettling, like a cult meeting, but with real estate pamphlets. Then Jessica took the stage. She was dressed in a sharp, all-white pantsuit, her blonde hair pulled into a severe bun. She looked like the CEO of a company that specialized in making people miserable. She gripped the microphone, her voice dripping with artificial warmth. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where communities lack order, where property values are threatened by negligence, where hard-working homeowners deserve better. The audience nodded like she was preaching gospel. I clenched my jaw. Jessica continued, gesturing dramatically. That's why I'm proposing a new initiative, the Community Compliance Act, a citywide effort to bring consistency and rules to all neighborhoods. No more ambiguous guidelines. No more out-of-control yards. No more homeowners behaving irresponsibly. I couldn't take it anymore. I raised my hand. Jessica's eyes flicked to me. She recognized me immediately. Her smile barely faltered, but I saw the flicker of panic in her gaze. Ah, she said smoothly. A question from a concerned citizen. Please go ahead. I stood up, keeping my voice calm. Just so I'm clear, this Community Compliance Act, you're proposing would give the city the power to enforce HOA-style rules. Jessica nodded, her eyes narrowing. Yes, but in a fair and organized way. I tilted my head. Like the fair and organized way you try to enforce rules in our neighborhood? The same neighborhood that banned you? The room went dead silent. Jessica's face twitched. I don't think this is the place for… Oh, I think it is, I interrupted. Since you're running on a platform of accountability, why don't we talk about your history? Like how you trespassed, vandalized private property, issued fake citations, and tried to manipulate an entire community. Should I pull up the police reports? Because I have them. Jessica's smile cracked. Murmurs spread through the crowd. People glanced at each other, confused. Mark stood up beside me. Yeah, I have some questions too. Like, are we just supposed to ignore that this woman was literally arrested for harassing homeowners? And now she wants control over the entire city? A ripple of unease spread through the room. A few people pulled out their phones, Googling, checking, finding the truth. Jessica's face had turned a blotchy red. I will not be bullied by misinformation, she snapped. These accusations are from people who fear progress. I shrugged. Funny, because the court documents say otherwise. Jessica's campaign manager rushed onto the stage, whispering furiously in her ear. She was losing control. Then, in true Jessica fashion, she lost it completely. You ruined my life, she screeched, pointing at me. You and your stupid, unkempt house. You're the reason my reputation was destroyed. Oh, there it was. The real Jessica. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Nobody likes a meltdown. A reporter at the back raised a hand. Miss M, is it true that you were banned from your previous HOA for abuse of power? Jessica looked like a cornered animal. She turned on me with pure venom. You think you've won? You think you've stopped me? You're nothing. You're a pathetic little… The microphone cut out. Her campaign manager had pulled the plug. It was over. The fallout was glorious. Within hours, the internet was flooded with clips of Jessica's meltdown. Her Community Compliance Act became a running joke. Her campaign collapsed overnight. A week later, she issued a statement saying she was stepping away from public life to focus on personal growth. Translation: she was too embarrassed to show her face. Mark and I sat on my patio that evening, beers in hand, watching the sunset. So, he said, do you think we've finally seen the last of her? I smirked. Mark, you know how horror movies work. The villain always finds a way to crawl back for one last scare. He laughed. Yeah, but this time, we'll be ready. Because the thing about Karens, they never learn.